Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am Screen Scene Guru coming at you with a new comic book review. This is on Spider-Man, Back to Basics. Very interesting comic book from the Amazing Spider-Man. So let's dive into this. I've already shown off a few pages, but I do want to show off real quick a couple of interesting images. Get to see the Avengers fighting these creatures. Really cool. Get to see Kingpin give the key to the city to Spider-Man. And he refuses it. He doesn't want to take it. We end up finding out the creatures are from Mysterio, so that's very interesting as well. Then we get to see Mysterio represent himself in court. Very interesting. Talking about how he always wanted to be an actor, but he was never given the chance, so he made the world his stage. We get introduced to this character who uses fear to intimidate the villains of Spider-Man. It's very interesting, kind of like Sentry, so that's cool. Then we get to meet the return of Curt Connors, the Lizard. So that's really cool. Curt Connors is a Amazing Spider-Man villain, so that's very awesome. We do get to see a bit of a flashback. The other villains, of course. And Spider-Man even buys them a book to read while they're in jail. It's nice. Nice of Spider-Man too. We get to see some more of his life with MJ. And Dr. Connors returns. Some really cool stuff there, guys. He talks about how there's now a chip that he can take to transform back and forth from the Lizard. So that's really cool. Then we get the introduction of Taskmaster and Black Ant, which is basically like a knockoff of Ant-Man, but he's a criminal. So that's very cool. And of course they're trying to steal the Hydron Accelerator, I believe. But it's a device that made Peter Parker Spider-Man. So that's very interesting. Trying to rob that. Then we get to see Spider-Man fighting the villains. Before he realizes that the accelerator actually split Peter Parker and Spider-Man in two. So very interesting stuff there. Get to see a bit of fan art, them clashing. Some stuff going down in Africa, which if you guys watch Craven, You know what this is leading up to. Then we get a bit of double dating with MJ and Parker and their friends. So that's cool. Okay, so this is one of the things I really wanted to show off. This is the Tri-Sentinel, which is made by the Life Foundation, which they are basically preparing for the end of the world, creating these giant Tri-Sentinels. So that's very interesting. We see Peter Parker and Spider-Man both, trying to figure out what to do after their separation. So that's dope. We see Peter Parker gets a chance to live his life worry-free, while Spider-Man gets to continue his work of saving the city. Yeah, they talk about the experiment that happened with Peter Parker. And apparently Kirk Connors, the lizard, is warning Peter, because they're doing this experiment on mice, that it's not exactly good if these particles are separated. It can actually cause the knowledge to be transferred over into one copy but not the other. So that's very interesting. Let's see. Some more fighting. The Tri-Sentinel. And this is the first Spider-Man comic I've read in 2026, guys. So, pretty cool stuff there. Show off some artwork. Then we get introduced to this villain, who was all the way back in the first Spider-Man. He's actually the scientist who helped create the Goblin serum. So that's very interesting. We get to return of some classic old villains. That's cool. They spray paint the Tri-Sentinel with a Spider-Man mask, which is pretty funny. Spider-Man gets popular, celebrity famous, while Peter Parker struggles with his own life. And then eventually Peter Parker hitches a ride with Spider-Man to try to convince him they need to reconnect. Okay, here are the mice. Showing off the mice. And what happens to them in the experiment. And then, of course, this evil entity comes to former employee of Osborn. And, of course, he discovers there is a whole army of Tri-Sentinels made by the Life Foundation, ready for his command. So that's really cool. You get to see Peter Parker sacrificed himself. and they jump back and forth a little bit through time. Not a big fan of the way they did Peter Parker in this comic. I mean, they tried to give him issues like plagiarism he had to cover over, and he's not exactly popular at work right now, so very interesting the stuff they're doing with his character. Yeah, of course he talks to Boomerang, who is their roommate, convinces Boomerang to steal the device, and then of course Peter's going to use it to try to reconnect him and Spider-Man. As this Tri-Sentinel army approaches, then of course they become one. Really awesome. And he even calls on his Tri-Sentinel Iron Spider, which is really cool. So that's fun. They give him like an Iron Spider suit. And he mentions he can hack into the others. So all of a sudden he's got an army, somewhat, of Tri-Sentinels. So that's really cool. And of course they're questioning Taskmaster and Black Ant. I've always thought of these comic books kind of as an Elseworld, or like a manga, showing you a glimpse into the characters' lives that you didn't expect. So that's really cool. Get to see them escape. And then on the back they just got the introduction of Kraven, of course, because he's a big character. We also got some art. Really nice. So that's the end of the comic, guys. This is Back to Basics from 2018. It's Amazing Spider-Man. Show off some more artwork real quick. Really love this classic artwork. Yeah, pretty cool. Amazing Spider-Man, Back to Basics. Very nice. Definitely recommend you guys check them out. If you haven't started reading comics yet, 2026 is a good year to start. Real quick, I want to pause my video. Okay, now that I'm done with my comic review, going into some movie notes, guys. We've got Stranger Things Season 5 had a record-breaking Nielsen charts and Netflix viewership, so really good on the Duffer Brothers for this latest season. There's actually stories coming out talking about how they shot the last season without the scripts ready. Very interesting, controversial story to be running. Going on, Paramount is suing Warner Brothers to disclose the financial partnership deal between Netflix and WB. Some very animosity going on over there at Paramount. The Witcher spin-off The Rats is available on Netflix. Like I've been saying, I've been watching Witcher Season 4. Pretty good. We got Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. Screeners have dropped for people. They've dropped the first 5 episodes. They haven't gotten the finale yet, but the first 5 are pretty good. Going on, it's been 15 years since Game of Thrones ended, so this is the second spin-off after House of Dragon. It's doing really well. Let's see what else is going on. georgerrmartin says it's the most accurate of all of the HBO Max projects, so that's pretty good to hear from the creative himself. It's the most accurate. Marvel announces a web page dedicated to the release of Avengers Doomsday. A time clock has started, set for the end of the year. So you guys can check that out. It's the Avengers Doomsday Clock is now up and available. It's a web page. And we believe this is the last advertisement they might be doing for the film, because the 4 trailers have come out in the theaters, playing with Avatar, Fire, and Ash. Let's see. Black Panther 3 has been announced. It's going to be coming out after Secret Wars. It's been titled Shadows of Wakanda. It's apparently going to start shooting in London in June. June 15th is the official start date for shooting Black Panther 3. And we do know that Letitia Wright, who else we've got? Denzel Washington, a lot of other people coming in, as well as Damson Idris. So very exciting news there. Ryanhurst cast as Kratos in Prime Video's God of War. This is a fantastic casting, guys, because I'm a big fan of Ryanhurst from, of course, Sons of Anarchy. He played Opie. It was very emotional when that character left the show, but I'm very glad that he is getting big acting chops. Going on, we got Matthew McConaughey has trademarked the alright. And I'm pretty sure everyone in the world is happy for him to have done that. We've got annafaris is officially returning to the Scary Movie franchise with Scary Movie 6. Very happy she has decided to return. Madagascar 4 is in early production from DreamWorks. So very interesting stuff there, because they've done the Penguin spin-off series. They've done a couple of things with Madagascar. Going on, HBO Max is finally coming to Germany this week. I know they have a region problem when it comes to the UK, other countries getting these streaming services. Sometimes it takes up to a year after they've launched to get out of the country. So finally, Germany is getting HBO Max. Very happy for them. I'm sure they are very excited. We've got another Minneapolis shooting, unfortunately, due to the ICE crackdowns. Administration is really pushing for people to have their papers, like the Gestapo. We had Joe Rogan recently talk about this on his podcast. Do we really want to be the Gestapo? After a man was shot in the leg outside his home, they were, of course, coming to conduct regular scheduled checkups on these individuals that are in the country temporarily or have a questionable visa. And I still think it's wrong of them to go after people in their homes. That's not constitutional. But they are doing it in Minnesota. So, and apparently the man was armed. He was outside his home. They shot him. So they're now telling people don't resist. Don't try to fight the federal government, because that's not a very smart idea. Iran closes its airspace due to the riots that are happening right now, due to the government over control. There's been over 10,000 people arrested, and apparently President Trump is citing that we are with Iran in the protests. We're apparently going to aid them somehow, and he's threatened the Ayatollah and the government not to commit genocides. So that's very good. Okay, we already read all that. Going on from there, I've got a massive outage for 100,000 people in the U.S. Because Verizon's phone company has been basically dropping calls all across the states. People have been told if they have a Verizon phone, use some other method of communication because it cannot call out. The calls are being dropped. Even this is for 911 emergencies. The calls are being dropped. So very interesting situation going on with Verizon right now. They're complaining that it's a server that malfunctioned due to the several statewide blackout. We got Greenland must be controlled by the U.S. or the area could be taken over by anyone. So we had Denmark officials coming to the U.S. to talk with the president. Talks went not so well, apparently. They're still in negotiations. It's very interesting what's going on around the world in Greenland and, of course, South America. So stuff in Venezuela and Cuba. Still going on with the oil. Oil is being basically confiscated. They're saying that it's being used for drugs and war efforts. So now we're taking that gas that is really dirty, it's thick, polluted gas in Venezuela. The only place relatively close to it be refined is Florida. Or sorry, not Florida, Texas, which is very interesting. Very landman of this administration to be basically commandeering these oil tankers and giving them an express ride to Texas to be, the oil to be cleaned and sold. So yeah, I mentioned Joe Rogan's podcast. He's now coming out against people in ICE, saying that we don't need to be like Germany. We don't need to be asking people for their papers or shooting them, assaulting them if they don't have them on them. FBI raided a Washington Post reporter. Apparently took her phone, her laptop, everything she was doing to work on a story. This is also a breach of the Constitution. You've got to look into this freedom of speech. It's being threatened. So we've got, apparently she was in contact with a whistleblower who had a LinkedIn page with classified data on it. So any of these whistleblowers trying to come forward to these news outlets, there are people watching, there are people that their mission is specifically to deter you. So that's going on. Right now we got 4 astronauts set to return to Earth on Friday, which is very interesting, due to one of them getting sick, they believe with COVID. They're not exactly sure how the individual was able to get sick up in ISS due to they keep you in a quarantine for like a month before you go up there. But somehow this was able to avert their screenings. So now all 4 of our U.S. astronauts coming back in a few days, or tomorrow, should we say. Also, real interesting news from the Lara Croft Tomb Raider series from Prime. We got our first images of Sophie Turner as Lara Croft, and it looks amazing, very game accurate. Comparing this to the Angelina Jolie films. And there was actually a Lara Croft Tomb Raider movie a few years ago in 2018. I didn't watch that one, but I heard it was very much like the games. So that's cool. I'm really interested in Sophie Turner kicking ass. We'll see how this series goes. That's me. This is it for my video. Be sure to hit the subscribe bell, notifications, all that stuff. Follow me on Facebook, TikTok, Threads, anywhere you like, Instagram, for more content coming out. But until next time, guys, gals, signing off. Have a good one. Bye-bye.